Townhall meetings Wednesday, April 23rd at 6 p.m. Let us stand for our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. We ask now Chief Randall Beach to lead us in prayer.
God of our fathers, you are the God who brought the Israelites out of the house of bondage. You brought them forth on dry ground in that great miracle to live as a people free out of bondage. And we thank you for that benefit that we have this evening, to be a people who are free, to have discourse, to agree and to disagree, and to be reminded by the psalmist that the blessings of unity, that it is like the precious ointment on the head that flows down to Aaron's beard when the people dwell in unity. Pray that the yoke of government would not be a burden and not be bondage to this community. We also pray that we would be a people that esteem our leaders highly, even more highly than ourselves, that we would pray for them in agreement or in disagreement, that those prayers would be answered, that there would indeed be unity, and that as those who have stepped forward to lead are esteemed, that yoke and that weight, although heavy at times, would be a blessing and it would be peace for them as they look upon this crowd tonight in this grand and great community of Pickens, South Carolina. And I pray that your benediction would be upon this place and upon this community, that there would be peace, and let it abound, and let freedom abound even tonight in speech under this grand Constitution of the United States of America. We pray for this time and ask for your mercy and blessings upon it. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. And there's one word that I can think of right now as we move forward, and that's passion. I know all of you have a passion for Pickens. Oh, it doesn't amplify. I'll speak up. I got a big mouth. I'll try. But it's passion. It's that opportunity to have Pickens like you would want it. I feel the same way. I took an oath to try to do my best to do that. This is not to bring any heartache, but it's to do what's best in the sight of God first and in man. You know, if anybody know about the history of Pickens, since I've been mayor, I've had to deal with some hard times against me, and that's okay. That's what I signed up for. I don't shun from it because I love this place so much. It's okay to speak your mind tonight. We want you to. But let's be courteous and kind and civil. Let them see how Pickens handles things when there's two different sides. That we can handle it in a good, morally correct way. I want to apologize. I got from Miss, was it Greenberger? Yeah, she told me that this place wasn't going to be big enough. I thought it was because it was bigger than council chambers. It was not a plan not to get people in here. We wanted everybody to have an opportunity. Please forgive me for that. We're going to take our time. We got 3 minutes per person that's going to speak. First, we got BRD that's going to give forth the presentation to let us know what their plans that they want to do. And I want you to know that I'm speaking for council right now. This is a neutral position. We're not taking one side or the other. We want to hear from BRD just as much as you do. We want to hear from our citizens very much. We're not taking a position tonight. Monday, we have work session. We're going to be discussing it openly as we move further. But it's now coming to a point where we're going to have to make a decision, one way or the other. It's getting close to that. So please bear with us, work with us, continue to call, continue to email. I've learned so much getting those emails and calls. I do not shun that at all. We welcome it. This is America. We also welcome a man to be able to do with his land like he wants to, under the premises of community. We're trying our best to do the best that we can for everybody affected. That being said, we're now going to go into number 4, the presentation by developers and property owner as it relates to the development and site planning for the property on Wolf Creek School Road. We turn the floor over to you all. So I can take you off of this, right? Dan, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That is for online, you're gonna have to project.
Okay. Can y'all hear me? All right.
Probably have to turn around.
You can turn your back to us if you want.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
The whole room out there is full, and it's not fair to those people out there that they cannot hear what's going on in this room. They took time off work, they took time out of their lives to come down here, and they cannot hear, and they're out there standing out there. So how can we get information of what's going on in this room out here to them?
They have a smartphone? It's being live streamed.
I can't even hear you guys, and I'm standing in here.
Go ahead. All right, I'll yell as loud as I can. Is that better back there? This is for online, so I'm going to do the best I can. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, I remember this girl named Sarah. She lived in a big house. She wore fancy clothes. Her parents had high-end jobs, and I knew that because she rubbed it in my face all the time. She made me feel small. She used her words constantly. One weekend, when I saw her walking down the street while I was riding in the car with my parents, in a moment of youthful stupidity, I rolled down the window, stuck my head out the car, and when I passed her, I stuck my head out the window and went, and I felt really good about myself until I rolled up the window, looked at my parents, and I knew I'd stepped in it. My parents told me that they were going to work my tail off, and that weekend, if I was awake, I was working, and I had to work until I went back to school that Monday and apologized to her, and I could not wait to get back to school. I pulled weeds, I picked up limbs, I washed baseboards, but what stuck with me wasn't the punishment. It was the lesson. My parents taught me that weekend that no matter how somebody treats me, you treat them with decency and respect. So tonight, I hope, regardless of the emotions are high, I hope we can agree to that tonight, that we treat each other with decency and respect. Now, I'm not here to change anybody's minds. I grew up in Pickens County, and I know how we are. We're proud, we're independent, and we don't like people telling us what to think, so I'm not going to try. But I do want to talk plainly about 2 things tonight, motivations and facts. Let's start with motivations. I work for Dean Holder. He's my client. I don't always like my clients, but that's not the case here. Dean is one of the finest human beings I've ever met. And I tell people all the time that if I get to the end of my life and I'm half the man he is, I will have lived a good life. Many of y'all have had him as a principal. Your kids have gone through his office. Your grandkids have. And y'all don't have to agree with this project to agree that he's a good man, a darn good man. And we can agree on that tonight. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If this land sells, I haven't made a dime yet, but if it does, I'm going to make money. That's my motivation. I'm laying it out on the table. You're going to hear from the developer in just a minute. He's not from around here now. He grew up here, And I know some people don't like that he's not from around here. He's going to make money. That's his motivation. We started off with a local developer. When he couldn't get higher density, he bailed. This guy stuck with it for close to 2.5 years. But he's going to make money when this is over. This is still America, and it's not a crime to make money. Now let's talk about motivations from other people in the room. We've got a neighbor here who's worked hard, stirred up opposition, started a petition, organized people all over the county, outside the state, and I'll admit this person's gotten under my skin at times. But I respect their passion. I respect their right to speak. I respect their opinion. And I'll defend that person's right to speak. This is still America. But what are some of their motivations? That person probably doesn't want to look at this project. That's their right. But it's a motivation worth acknowledging. We've got somebody else here who's run for office and lost. I respect their tenacity, their willingness to serve. But there's a political motivation mixed in. So when you have mixed motivations, what do? Let's talk about the facts. You're going to hear people tonight talk about the schools, that they can't handle the growth. But the facts are they can. Now, this is not something I pulled off of social media or Google research. It comes straight from the school district of Pickens County. In 2004, your schools in Pickens, not the county, in Pickens, had 5,000 students. This year, you had 3,800. That's a 22% drop over the last 20 years. I'm going to leave a letter here tonight from the school district saying that they've got more than enough space to handle this development. So you don't have to take my word for it. You're going to hear concerns tonight about traffic. The developer had a traffic study done back when this plan had 209 homes, not 142. More about that later. Back when it was 209 homes, the study says that it didn't have enough impact to require turn lanes, signals, or changes. Now, I know some of y'all are thinking, well, the developer paid for the study. That's fair. But none of us here, including me, are qualified to review that study. That's DOT's job. That study will go to DOT, and they'll review it, and if they think the study's garbage, they won't give them the permits. They won't give them ingress and egress, and they'll send it back, and they'll deny the permits. Some people tonight are going to raise concerns about environmental issues. The developer's going to spend a ton of money on engineering, wetland studies, and then it'll go to DHEC. DHEC will review it. And if DHEC doesn't agree with the plan, they'll send it back. And if you've ever dealt with DHEC, they're not easy. They'll have the final say. Now here's something I have not seen shared in all the social media posts. This project's going to be under what is called a plan development agreement, if it goes through. What that means, a plan development agreement, is all the details are legally locked in. It's a higher standard than zoning. Siting, green space, berms, buffers, numbers of homes, it's all nailed down in writing. The developer can't change it. The city can't change it. If the land ever changes hands and the developer leaves, the next person can't change it. It's all in writing. It's a contract. Cannot be changed. This level of accountability is rare. You haven't seen it in Pickens. It doesn't exist in Pickens County. It's the crown jewel of controlled growth. So tonight you're going to hear people talk about other communities, how they grew too fast, how they lost their charm, how nobody wants to see that happen here. And I get it. I do. I hear y'all. I've read what you've written. But here's the thing. You're not them, and you shouldn't be. And your city leaders, they haven't acted like these other places. They've put this developer through the ringer. I've never seen a town push harder than your city leaders have. So let me walk you through it. That's what you're here for tonight. This plan started with 209 homes. That's been knocked down to 142. That's 67 homes gone. You wanted bigger lots. 47 of those will be half-acre lots, and they're going to be along the ridge, so you'll see the nicest homes first. The smaller lots, they're not out front. They're down behind the hill or out on the far end of the property. You wanted nicer homes. They're not going to be vinyl boxes. They're going to be hardy plank, and they'll sit on crawl spaces, not slabs. You wanted more green space. They added it. You wanted more buffer. They added it. You wanted a visual barrier. They're building a 30-foot wide berm with plants on top. Now, if those other towns that you're talking about had asked for all that, would they be in the mess they're in? Your council has drawn a line. They've set a precedent. And I'll tell you right now, if you brought 100 developers in this room with these type of restrictions, you might get one to stick around. You don't have to like development, but you can at least acknowledge the way this has been handled with more detail, more accountability, and more demands than any other. Sorry, thank you. I'll say that again. I'm a quiet talker, so it's hard for me to. You don't have to like development, but you can at least, when I'm yelling, it feels like I'm being mean to y'all. I'm not. Sorry. I'm trying to be nice, but I'm not trying to yell at y'all. You don't have to like development. I'll say it with a smile. Is that better? But you can at least acknowledge the way this has been handled with more detail, more accountability, and more demands. We're going on 2.5 years than any other project I've ever seen in this county and the upstate. One last word about your council. Their job is to represent the people who live in the city, who pay taxes in the city, who run the businesses in the city, and depend on foot traffic to stay afloat. Their responsibility is to make the city run. So I'll close with this. I've been transparent with my motivation. I laid it out on the table. I've laid out the facts. As you listen tonight, I ask you to do one thing. Listen for the facts, not the feelings, not the fear, not the social media noise, just the facts. And if you still disagree at the end of it, that's okay. I just ask that if you see me or Mr. Holder walking down the street, you don't do what I did when I was 9 years old and roll down your window and do something petty. And if you've got questions, have mercy. Do not go to Facebook for the answers. Don't post. Don't guess. Call me. My cell phone number is 864-380-4537. I'll leave. Dan Bracken. I'm Dan Bracken. I'll have my card out back. I'll have the letter from the school district out back. 864-380-4537. You can call me. I will answer the phone. I will be nice. I will listen, and we can have a conversation. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, I'm going to turn my back to you, I guess.
That's okay.
Luckily, my kids are in their 20s, early 20s, so they've grown up with one of these in their hand, seemingly all the time, in spite of my admonition to them. Okay, my name is, I'm about to get there. Hold on. So I admonish them not to talk with their phone in their hands, and I'm going to have to do that so that I can walk through the presentation. My name is Brian Gillette. I'm with BRD Land and Investment. It's a land development company. We do not do bulldozers. We do entitlement work only. We buy raw land. We meet with communities. We meet with engineers. We meet with consultants. We meet with home builders and figure out what kind of neighborhood, what kind of development can work in this particular situation. We were approached by Mr. Holder and his broker, Dan, about 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, and we looked at the property, and it had a number of challenges. First and foremost, it had high-tension power lines running right through the middle of it. That's typically a difficult thing for home builders to get around. People can now, and because land has become more and more scarce and more expensive, home builders' willingness to go into those kinds of properties has increased. It also has a sewer line running right through the middle of it, a force main running right through the middle of it through an easement that he granted to the city many years ago. So we looked at that and we said, okay, well, if it's got sewer on it, maybe we can get higher density that would justify otherwise a challenging development project because of the topography and the fact that about a third of it is in the water or in wetlands or in the floodplain. So we had to look at that and say net on net. That was where that first 200 unit kind of plus minus ish, 209 was what we started with, dropped it down to 202. We said, we think we can do this. So it took us some time between April and August. And if I could get the next slide up, I don't have control. There we go. So what I want to talk to you about is a summary of everything that's happened since then, what we've been doing with council through communication with the city council, through a working group of council members, and through first one public meeting with the whole community, people like you, people in the city as well, and then through the creation of a development agreement around that feedback, all the way up to this public meeting. And then I'll go through essentially some of the additional due diligence work that we've had to do to continue to confirm to ourselves that this can be a viable project, because the concessions that we've been asked to make for density, for lot sizes, for infrastructure, for impact fees, for impact on the community, we need to make sure we can still have a project that's economically viable. So I'll share some of that with you. And I'll also share some of the key development agreement terms and conditions as they are now. I want to remind everybody right now that this is still a work in process. If they vote to say we will annex or we will agree to your annexation petition, they still have to approve the development agreement in order for it to become an actual development. We will not close on an annexed raw land without entitlements. We have to have our entitlements, and those entitlements must be granted through a development agreement, which the city has made clear to us. That's the only way to get this project done. So I'm grateful for them to open up this to a public kind of forum like this, so you can hear, here's what's happened so far, here's more feedback we're looking from you guys on. We think we got a pretty good project now. Many people may disagree and say, no, it needs to be even less dense. We've made some compromises, but I can explain some of the cost drivers and tell you what's happening to the house prices as a result. They're already about 65% to maybe 75% higher than what we originally started with. There is a market for those buyers. These are bigger homes. These are more expensive homes. And there is a market for that. But there's a market for the other product too. But it's got to fit the project and it's got to fit the site. And then I'll go through the site plan itself as it is right now that reflects all that feedback, the development agreement conditions and constraints, and feedback from council, as well as your initial feedback that we got a year and a half ago. All right, so, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Next slide, please. So here's how we started. I said we met Mr. Holder back in around April when we signed our agreement of 2023. And then we had our initial discussion and initial submission of our annexation petition, which is in South Carolina law, 100% of the annexation petition members, if they're the property owners, if 100% of them ask for annexation, it's a no public meeting, vote by council, yay, nay, and pursuant to zoning, apply, everything else. Then it goes into the public record. The council at the time, the mayor at the time, said we'd rather have some input from the county and from the surrounding community because development around here is a hot potato issue. And we want to make sure people feel like their voices are heard. We had to agree to that and say, well, okay, yeah, so we won't have our petition considered first. Let's have a public meeting. So that was when we then, so at their first reading, they tabled it and said, let's have the public meeting. We did that in November. The new council was seated shortly after that. And the decision was made then to wait, let the new council members get their bearings about them, learn more about our development plans and everything else. This is about as loud as I can get. So, and they basically said, all right, great. Well, then let's go back and we need to really think about a development agreement here. The new council and the new city administrator said, our UDO is pretty old and we're going to need to update that UDO. That's the Unified Development Ordinance that covers development standards. It covers the size of the neighborhoods, the density, different categories that you can be zoned into, and all of the building and design codes that go along with that. So because that was dated and because of the nature of this particular parcel, we all agreed, okay, let's look at a development agreement. That immediately knocked out about 25% of the home builder buyers that I could sell this project to. That's my job, is to develop a project that's sellable to a builder. It could be a custom builder, it could be a national builder, it could be a regional builder. If I don't have permitted and fully approved and engineered lots that they know they can develop for $78,000 of development cost, plus they got to pay me my price that I want for the value of the land, net of what I got to pay him for the raw land, there's no deal. So I got to make sure that I can find those buyers. So I dropped about 25% off the table when they said development agreement, period. Many home builders will not develop pursuant to a development agreement. They study UDOs. They have people that go around and do that, and they say, okay, good, I can build to that. You want me to put all these special conditions in? No, thank you. I'll go down the street and find more land or another community where it's just the machine is churning. So I'm not them. I'm the developer. So in the second meeting, So we then developed this development agreement, and we had a working group formed of a subset of the council members, Robert and Allie. And Robert resigned after his position after the working group had met a couple of times. We went through several iterations of the development agreement and several iterations of the site plan to come up with what you're going to see in a minute here. And at the last meeting we had gotten it down to 170. They said, can you get lower? And we did. And so that's what you'll see tonight. In October of in the fall, there was again a lack of a full seated council. So the decision was made by the mayor and council members at the time. Let's wait until the new council members, the special election elected representatives then are on the council and have been brought up to speed again, just like it was. So that's how it's taken this long, and here we are. So they said, let's defer on this. And then the mayor said, before we continue to move forward, and that's where we are now, let's have another chance for everyone to get caught up on what we've done so far. We know people have been talking and they're concerned. They haven't seen any updated plans. I have not had an updated presentation like this prepared until today. I'll put the finishing touches on it, and I'll change it tomorrow because they may ask for other conditions. We still have work to do and due diligence with respect to fire, public safety. We've got our wetland stuff done. We've got our geotech done. But there's a lot of other work that has to be done before I can say, yes, we can sign that development agreement and we can sell that because it's fully complete. There's additional work that needs to be done, and that may affect the plan. And in some cases, we may get to a point where we say, this is as low as I can go. This is the only concession I can make. This is the impact fee that I can afford. Nothing more. So that still has to be done. So that's where we are now. Next slide. The due diligence breaks down into these big categories here: wetlands delineation, environmental impact assessment. We did a traffic impact analysis. We hired a company called Kimley Horn. They're one of the best in the business at doing this. They have former traffic engineers that worked for DOT on their staff. We have to run everything by DOT. Even when we do the analysis, we have to show them our study design. We have to show them the counts and everything else that we'll be using to come up with the recommendations. And then they will approve or not approve and say, yep, those results make sense. That study design makes sense. So that's done. The housing market study and economic impact assessment we have commissioned many tens of thousands of dollars of market study to say what kind of houses can this market support, because we've now taken and changed our game from smaller houses on smaller lots to bigger houses on bigger lots, and then more expensive houses on smaller lots that have incredible views and they're effectively waterfront. So that's how we are able to change this around a little bit. But I have to be able to show to my investors that, yes, this market will support a $450,000 house, a $600,000 house, or maybe a $380,000 for the smaller ones, but they're smaller lots. So all of that has to back up with market research. So I've commissioned that. We did a boundary and topo survey. We have assessed utility access. Again, there's a force main running through the property. We can't gravity feed it. We're going to have to do a lift station on site that will direct inject into that force main on the property. We've looked at water. It's a Bethlehem Roanoke Rural Water District territory. We will have to work with them to supply water to the property. There's one path that would require overbuilding some of their infrastructure. There's another path where City of Pickens water comes down. There could be a master meter agreement in where the residents will be Bethlehem Roanoke customers, but the meters will, because the Bethlehem Roanoke will own the meters, but the water source has three technically, points of ingress to the property. So we had to assess that. That's not done. That's got to be, finalized. We got to have an agreement finished for that. And then electricity, notwithstanding the high tension power lines, we do have to get electricity and cable and everything else, or internet and all those other things. We did a geotechnical assessment, which consists of borings to make sure there wasn't bedrock that we were going to hit very shortly below the surface. That could have screwed our plans up very quickly, because if you can't grade, this place is like, it's a rolling, lots of undulating topography. I have to be able to grade in a lot and a driveway. We're not doing mass grading here. That's why we're doing crawl spaces and turn down slabs, in addition to requests from City Council that be in the development agreement, that these not be a mass graded, all slab construction neighborhood. So we did that, and that's been completed. We completed a preliminary grading plan. That's still being modified. And then we've done 4 iterations of preliminary site and civil plan documents with my site planning and engineering. I did see someone note in some of the online kind of feedback to the process so far that people that aren't aware of BRD's model. We pay for all that out of our own funds. I get paid nothing until the deal's done. This is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars already, and we haven't closed. And we may not be able to. It might not work for a lot of those reasons that I've just laid out. And a lot of it is because what City Council has already pushed us to as the new standard of 142, I knew I could make it work with 202. It was tight, but I could make it work. 142, that's a different market, different buyers. I've had to go do market research. I have to really double check all of my engineering assumptions too. So all that's done. So next slide. So we did the economic impact assessment. Initially, we looked at 202 houses and basically about a $350,000 or $320,000 entry level kind of price for this. It wasn't cheap, but they're not starter homes. They were nice homes, but they were smaller. And the tax impact over that for over 20 years to the city alone would be about $6 million. Next slide. We changed it around and added to the new lot count of 142, reran it, and because the house values go up, and I was conservative and said, well, let's assume they're assessed at $385,000 or $380,000. You're still at about 4.9 over those 20 years. So that's property tax revenue for the city of Pickens to fund much needed infrastructure, services expansion, and to have essentially a growing tax base in the city of Pickens, which has not happened in a long time. It's been happening, incrementally, but in terms of the overall population growth in the region, the city of Pickens, that is the kind of crown jewel, could be the crown jewel of this beautiful county, feeding that with these new property tax revenue sources is what we wanted to start to quantify how much that represents. So next slide. That's where the sewer line existing main is. That's not technically an as-built. But again, there are gravity lines, a gravity main down on the other end. We initially looked at gravity feeding everything to that, but I would have 38-foot deep manhole covers. That's not a good idea, and I don't think it would be approved for that kind of build out. So that's when we looked at, okay, now I got to add in a lift station. That's at least a couple $100,000. So can I still make it work? So next slide. We had our topo and boundary survey done here. This is up to date. Now it's an advanced copy, but it's hard to see in this rendering, and online it's probably a little bit easier. You can zoom in on it. But those tight little dashed lines, those are topographic ISO lines. So it indicates the topography, and there's substantial topography out here. So it's a very, plateau and a big ridge on the top, and then there's 2 ridges or a ridge out that sticks out in between the bodies of water down there. So we have to work around those, and in terms of both the slope and in terms of wetlands potential. So the next slide is the wetland study itself. We were able to delineate the exact locations of wetlands. on this. We actually did a preliminary jurisdictional determination from the Corps of Engineers, because if they are United States jurisdiction waters, then you have to have different permits. So we did confirm. There's a couple of points in here, and that's on a different map that I can share with council. And as we go further into this, it's a lot more detailed. We have not completed. That was a preliminary jurisdictional determination, but all indications are that we will have that to contend with as well. Next slide. So that gets us to the development agreement. As we sat down with council through the working group and through several iterations, they made it clear this project isn't going to happen without a development agreement. Are you willing to continue to go forward? We said yes. Let's sit down and work on a mutually acceptable draft. Worked with council, both from the city who reviewed our draft, and we would take their red lines back. And then where we're at right now is basically the overall structure of a development agreement is to specify development requirements that are in addition to any other requirements required under law at the city, state, local, federal level pertaining to land development. So that's all ordinances and regulations still apply. The development agreement then codifies additional obligations that the builders and developer must be beholden to in order for those entitlements to be granted. It also establishes time-bound conditions for the execution of those development rights that are granted under that agreement, so that if you don't get it done in a particular period of time, they go away and you can't develop to those standards. So we have ample time to do it because we don't know what the market's going to do. We may have to sit on it for a bit, and that could be a challenge because now I've got a very high price point that I have to expect for this, and I can only develop to that agreement at that price. The market tanks like in 2008, I don't think that's going to happen, but if it did, I'm not pulling the trigger on a development that for lots that I can only sell at half the price that the development agreement otherwise requires. So that's a key point here too. It codifies project-specific design and building standards. So things like crawl spaces and turn-down slabs instead of just flat slab mass grade construction. That's not allowed under this development agreement. And the siding choices for the house, it's hardy plank or better. And those are home builder classified grades, so they can all know what that means. So when I sell the lots to a builder, they know that's what they're going to have to adhere to. Same thing with buffers, anything that's in addition to or different from the UDO that was last passed in 1993, 5-ish, 92. So anything in addition to that, we will codify the setbacks between the lots. And then everything else. And then we also set requirements for open space and for public accessibility to those open spaces, including what areas are managed by an HOA and what areas are open to the public, what areas might be public. So we have not worked through all those details yet. That's TBD as well. But our intention is to essentially make that open space around the waters accessible to the public. How? We've got to figure that out. And then it establishes impact fees that will offset any financial impact on public infrastructure or services. So we've committed to the city that we will work in good faith toward a resolution of any cost increases that would be incurred by the city or by the community. We will make sure that impact fees are assessed fairly through this development agreement relative to all the other concessions that we've already agreed to and all the outlays that we have to do to adhere to the regulations here. Next slide. So this is the new site plan. And as you'll see, it's 142 plus minus units, maybe a little less, maybe one or two less. And we are looking actually even at changing the point of ingress and egress here on the Wolf Creek School side to exit out down closer to where the power line easement is. That's simply because we agree with we've met with some of the rural people here, and they've said we don't want this through street connection to a rural neighborhood right across the street. And we're kind of like, well, that's county. This would be city if it was annexed. I think we can make a case to DOT, which normally says if you're exiting a neighborhood and there's a street there, you must connect to it. That's not a hard and fast rule. So we think that because we have enough sightline distances, that's a very long stretch of road. Those are 100-foot wide lots. So we've got plenty of room. We think that we can locate it down at the end. I have to get approval from DOT to do that. That's why it's not on this map yet, but I am looking into that. You can also see that all the houses on this side of the power lines, anything that would basically be visible from the road, are half-acre lots. Those are big lots. There are not very many national home builders, certainly in Easley or even in Greenville, have half-acre lot neighborhoods this close to any kind of town. Right. I'm saying this close to a town limit, there's no half-acre lots in a town limit with sewer infrastructure running right through the middle of it. That just doesn't happen in the home building world. Now, the smaller lots on the inside there and out on the peninsula, those are higher value lots because of their view shed and because of their proximity to preserved open space. Those are valuable lots. The half-acre lots in the middle, it's currently a cow pasture, right? So you can expect to see a certain amount of reforestation happening there when people plant trees. They don't want just a blank yard in most cases. There may be fences up, but there's a 30-foot buffer around all of that, and that 30-foot buffer has a 4-foot high berm, and there's vegetation planted on it. Next slide shows kind of what those side views look like in terms of what that buffer would look like. The lot lines are not on here, but the lot dimensions that we were looking at there, those are 100-foot wide. Half-acre lots are 100-foot wide by 220 feet deep. Those are big lots. The smaller lots are 50-foot lots, frontage with 100-foot depth. So these are are more like 1,200 feet deep, 6,750 square feet. So that's the current standard. Next slide, please. This is kind of like, ignore the ugly boxes. Our visualization software does not have a very good house representation, but these houses you'll see on the next slide, don't go there yet. But you can see like that buffer, these are big acreages. This is a very large site. And that at the corner of Malden Lake and Wolf Creek there, that's kind of what our landscaping standards are calling for. Planting, of flowering trees and a berm is out there as well. You may see some tops of houses, but you might not. You might just still see the view there. After the grading plan would be net of that too. But we will update this visualization as we go, so that you can kind of get a feel for, okay, what's this going to look like? But those are big lots, all behind that high tension power line, sewer line easement in the middle of the property, and then it illustrates no landscaping around the houses, of course, because that's up to the builders and the homeowners. But for what we have control over and what we're obligated to do, according to the development agreement so far, that's what the perimeter and the interior would look like. Next slide. So these are kind of examples of the qualifying home builder product you would see here. I would say this would represent actually a step down from what is most likely to be put, especially on the half-acre lots. Those are probably more like 2,800 to 3,500 square foot homes, and maybe even larger. In this market, there definitely is demand for that, and there definitely is a market for that. And there are plenty of builders that prefer that kind of product. So when I've shifted my focus to the kinds of builders that I want to recruit and sell this development agreement to, hard sell, they're going to be saying, okay, well, I've got a $575,000 product. What's the lot development cost? What price do you want for the lot? That's where the negotiation will begin. So those are the kind of price points. This is the kind of product. That would all be hardy plank. Those are no vinyl sidings or anything else. I would say the least, I can't imagine it's going to be less than 385 at this point. It's just based on the lot development costs and the site development costs, which are something like that. Next slide. I think, again, I don't have my updated market study results back. When I get that back, I can share those numbers. I would expect it's going to be in the 575 kind of range, but that's a total swag. Is the population now or the population that would move here to buy these houses? I can't answer that. I don't know. Well, I mean, it could, or people move out of Pickens, to move up into another. There's not been a lot of building for sure. I mean,
Just a second.
yes.
We're gonna have a question and answer period after he gets through. Please don't interrupt.
Okay, next slide, please. So that's actually it. So that's the parcel boundary, as you can see, and then the next slide just shows that's general vicinity for just sort of as a cleanup slide. Now you can go to the next slide. That just shows where it is. So that's it. And now we're in Q&A, or is there? Okay. So I'll stand right here, or people, do people need to speak into the microphone?
Go ahead, that's all right.
Okay. I'll repeat the question so anybody watching on the live stream will hear it. Yes, ma'am.
What if the product doesn't sell? Then what is the,
Say again.
what if your products do not sell? What do you pivot to at that point? Do you lower prices?
Well, that's the thing with the development agreement. I'm selling lots and a development plan, which includes roads, grading, stormwater detention. They got to build ponds. They got to line the ponds. They got to pass with DHEC. You know, all of this has to be approved and permitted by the health authority, by the environmental authorities, by the transportation authorities, by the police, by the fire marshal, police chief. Everybody has to sign off on the plan and say, looks good. Any deviation from that plan, not allowed. So that's why I'm saying we work it out to say these are what we can think we can sell these lots for. And if we can't sell them for that, we take it, because I can't change that, the development cost, right? It's fixed. So our margin would go down. We've already dropped our margin by about 45% by reducing the lot count down from 200, even with the smaller houses. It's just there was more demand for that then. I do think that my market study will come back and say, I hope it does, and say, no, the value for that kind of neighborhood with those big lots, that's up here. Maybe you can get that price. But it does remain to be seen, and that's why we have a go, no-go decision to make, and Mr. Holder could be back on the market. If we get this final terms of the development agreement and we're like, it's just too expensive, we can't get it done, sorry. Yeah.
How are your contractors held to a certain style home that they have to build on?
It's in the development agreement.
It's in the development.
They will have, when they see the mix of materials and say siding has to be this, has to be a crawl space or a turn down slab, no flat slabs, no grade the lot so it's like a, sticking it, that's the cheapest. A lot of builders won't do that. That's what I'm saying. When I just keep taking whole categories of builders and going, nope, they won't build. No, they won't look at it. But this other one will. This other 10 will. This custom builder will. This regional builder. They've done projects just like this, and I sit down and talk to them. So, it gives the city and the community. This is fundamentally what this is all about, is a neighborhood that, in spite of some members of the community, don't want any kind of neighborhood like this. They'd like to see it, say, as a nature preserve or a continuing farm operation or a cow pasture. So I can't please everyone, but what I hope to do, and what I think the city has, required me to do now, is come up with a legally binding agreement and plan that will, if they say it's got to be hardy plank, it's got to be hardy plank. They can't come in and say, well, we can do it, but we got to have vinyl siding. Sorry, that's, it's not like a UDO where I can say, well, I met this and it kind of gives me wiggle room. There won't be any wiggle room for the things that are in the development agreement, and that's one of them. Now, is it like expansive ranches on half-acre lots? Maybe. It depends on the setbacks, right? Depends on what the design would be. Are they 2.5-story kinds of, split level kinds of things, or a bonus room over a garage kind of layout, 3-car garage, 2-car garage? That I don't know. We have not anticipated putting that development agreement, and I would request that we not, because it gives me some flexibility to go out and meet with those kinds of builders. And I may have some that want to do much more than that in terms of the house, but I have to accept that standard at the bottom for where that starts. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Did I understand you to say that
Yeah,
the
I'll get
smaller
back.
interior lots are only 50 feet wide?
Correct. That's a.
And if you got 10-foot setback on each side of the house, that means the house can only be 30 feet wide?
That's what we're going to hope. Again, in the development agreement, because those are in the woods and out on the peninsulas and not visible, we would like for those to be smaller setbacks. So they'd be more like this kind of village concept.
What's square footage house are you contemplating?
You typically can get a 24, 2,800 square foot home on those. Those might be kind of empty nester homes.
You'd almost have to put the side house facing the street,
Right.
and they would be like a Charleston house.
Correct. We can't rear load them, so that, there's just not enough room right out on the peninsula. So there's challenges with that, but again, I want to get, beyond this kind of annexation question, get into this process in terms of hammering out the terms of the development agreement and start to have those conversations with the builder so I can show you more specifically, okay, here's what that kind of product would look like. It's all highly speculative at this point, and it's more about what we can get. I did have this guy. You had your hand up. Yeah, please. Oh wait, it's still Q&A, and then I think is it public?
You be the first one to speak after Q&A is over.
I want to ask him a question.
Okay, yeah, you can ask me a question.
Originally 200 lots, right?
Yes, sir.
You dropped it down to 142. Mr. Bracken had mentioned earlier in his conversation or address that 100 developers all will pull out, except probably one. Why is this so lucrative to you? Why you keep cutting to make this work, when quite honestly, we don't care if it works. We don't want it. So what makes you hang in there thinking you're gonna make this money? You're gonna build a $500,000-$600,000 home, which people in Pickens can't buy.
Yeah.
We might have somebody from Travelers Rest or Greenville or somebody say, okay,
Yeah.
we want to wait for your growth and we're gonna move here. And all of a sudden, they move into the same thing that they moved away from. We don't even have, our city don't have the resources to support 142 homes. Now, they can answer these questions momentarily, because I think I speak next to the council. We don't have it. We got a problem with police cars now. They all in the shop. We got a problem with a lot of things.
Sure.
We're gonna have more garbage picked up. We're gonna have more, you understand what I'm saying?
Sure. Let me answer.
Sure.
Let me answer your question.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you. So first and foremost, the reason I stick with this is because this is what I do. I do these kinds of projects. I've got one in Van Wyck, South Carolina. It's not Van Wyck. It's down near it's Lancaster County. It's right outside of Charlotte, right outside being 35 miles away. And they don't like development. And I believe that we have made, we started at 850 lots on that one. I'm down to 350. I do this because BRD Land and Investment is a different kind of developer. We are a paper lot developer that we build entitlement-ready lot communities, right? Entitlement-ready lots means they're shovel-ready. We don't operate the bulldozer. We don't send the bulldozer out. We sell the project to builders, and some of them have their own horizontal development, divisions. Some of them will bring in a horizontal development of, the bulldozer operators, the stormwater kind of engineering firms that can go build that kind of infrastructure. And that's where those lot development costs to get the site ready are incurred by the builder. So I sell it as a paper lot, the project. So we have a target. I'm well below my target on this for what we think we could make off of raw land, cost of entitlement, the hundreds of thousands of dollars I've already spent, the hundreds of thousands I still need to spend, and to basically pay Mr. Holder his asking price, and then do we have any money left over that I make a profit? This is not a big one for me. I will not make a lot of money on this, and BRD won't either. But BRD, our mission is to address the housing shortage in the southeast of the United States in communities that I grew up in. Chapel Hill, I graduated high school, Daniel High School, 1982. Go Tigers. I know there's a lot of Gamecocks here. And that was our first national championship year too. But that's I've seen this growth. I lived in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've seen this growth. I now live in Richmond, Virginia. I've seen this growth. And it's definitely challenging. There are good ways to do it and bad ways. We like to think that our process of listening to the community, working under UDOs, being willing to take on development agreements, being willing to look at, well, there's no sewer, you're going to have to build your own sewer plant, a private package plant, get an operator permit for that. HOAs can't own it. Go figure that out. We'll take that on. We like solving problems because we're committed to delivering the supply to the industry. That's all we do. So this is a small deal for me. very small. And it's below my threshold. Now, it started 200 used to be my cutoff. Wouldn't do anything for less than, I just can't do 200 lot homes because of all this money that I have to spend on entitlement research and all that, paying these consultants, paying the engineers before I've even, got a confirmation. I got to do all that to prove that I can do it. So that's why I do it. It's because I enjoy this. I'm more of the paper jockey too. I'm the analyst and the development, kind of specialist. But John and I work together to make this case. Our investors have to sign off on it. They have to look at that final and development agreement. They know the market better than I do. They were former home builder executives themselves. And they say, that dog won't hunt, cut and run. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yep. So we'll take a $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 loss. That's all we do. Yeah.
Tell me,
Sure.
where the city limits might start? Is it Wolf Creek School Road back this way?
It would go, so right now, can you, I don't know if you can go back in the slide deck. Yeah. So I'm going to. That's the city limit right now, and then there's another one over here. But the contiguous part is here, so it would come down here, and that would be it.
Does that include Heritage Estates?
No.
It doesn't?
No. It would cut off here, and that's why we were saying we were looking at ingress and egress about down here instead of there, so that you don't create this kind of through, like it looks like, a continuation of the neighborhood. So we heard from people in the county saying, we don't want that, kind of continuity. We're like, okay, let me see if I can fix that. But again, I can't do anything without DOT's permission. DOT rules their roads, and these are both state roads at that point. It becomes a county road further up. Yeah.
You join the property with the city by just a little sliver of land.
Correct. Any contiguity is all the.
That's kind of what we did with the high school.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, we annexed in the high school in the city.
But you had to touch it. Yeah, you can annex outside of that, but then you've got public hearing, all the other things. Yeah. So I have two hands back there. You first, sir.
So what's the setback from the mound to the houses? Because you said you're gonna have nice houses there with beautiful views. You have people on Malton Lake and Wolf Creek School Road that's probably not gonna have beautiful views no more because you're gonna put a berm, a fence, and trees. So what's gonna happen with that?
That's all TBD right now. The berm and the was really to preserve the rural buffer. So what that vegetation is, how high those trees grow, it's a 4-foot high, 30-foot wide berm, just to remind you. There's topography of the site, that it depends on what part of the road it is, because it drops off as you go down Malden Lake Road toward town. It kind of drops off there, so you would see the houses from the side.
These people have beautiful views, but everybody else who has homes there already just lost a beautiful view.
Yeah, so the setbacks are still TBD, but yes, that's kind of what happens if your neighbor built, across the street from you, one home. Yeah.
There we go. They gonna let one person in at a time to ask questions.
Okay.
I missed about 90-something% of your presentation because we can't hear anything out here in the hallway.
Okay.
I feel like that's a violation of our rights. We don't get to take part in our town hall meeting, but we have other individuals that aren't from this area sitting inside this room. Anyways, I heard you reference 2,800 square foot, something about an empty nester. What was that?
I said that the houses that are on the ridge line out there, can you bring up the site plan again? Which slide that was? No, that one right there. Yes, the small. I like I said, I went to Daniel High School, Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
There's not a whole lot of 2,800 square foot houses. That don't really fit this area.
I said that would be, it would not be much bigger than that for those smaller lots. That would be like a higher one, but it could be a multi-story kind of thing.
I would like to ask you more questions, but I haven't heard any information. I'm going to go back out here, let the next one person out of this large group, and everybody else not get their opportunity. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Will the side setbacks be specified in the development?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sorry if this has already been asked, but, does
No, it's Bethlehem Roanoke.
Any portion of it?
No,
So who owns it?
it's Bethlehem Roanoke Rural Water Authority jurisdiction. Yeah,
If they are willing to give the city of Pickens.
yeah, they have a fire hydrant on the corner there, and
My question is, have you talked to them to see if they're willing to give city of Pickens water rights?
they would not give their water rights up. No, they will own the meters here. It's the source of the water. They buy water. That's what Bethlehem Roanoke Rural Water Authority does. They buy water from other parties and they send it out through their infrastructure throughout the county or throughout their territory. Yes, ma'am.
What is the projected tax increase for the already in the community?
Our aim is to make this essentially no impact on current tax assessment. That's not up to us, though. We cannot change the assessments or have any impact on that. Ours is to essentially bring a category of product to the town that's a step up from what is currently there.
Do that, like, if my neighbor were to build $1 million house right next to me, that makes my house worth more, which makes my property taxes go up. So you're gonna
On an assessment.
aren't gonna go up for anyone around this neighborhood?
I can't answer that. I have no idea. I don't know what the assessments are of the properties around them. They have much larger, some have much larger, acreage. Some are, acre lots. So it would be based on the size of the lot and the age of the house and the value of the house. So yeah, these will be newer houses and higher value. But I'm not sure. I don't know how the assessment impact would work. I don't have a crystal ball on that.
An HOA?
Yes, there will be an HOA required for common areas and common area maintenance. We may have to look at an amenity center for this community simply because of the size and value of the lots and the value of the homes that are going to be in here. Most builders may say, if I got to have that kind of house, I got to have an amenity center. We have room for that, and that's what we held it out for.
Can I ask a question?
Sir.
Yeah, based on your past experience as a developer or investment company, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that this deal will go through?
That this deal will go through, that I'll sell profitably lots under this development agreement. I'm still, based on that, I haven't had an annexation vote yet. Even after 2 years, I'm still 50-50.
50-50? Have you lost any other cases that you weren't able to?
I've walked away from, several deals after only a few weeks of due diligence. I'll put earnest money down.
What makes this one different? Because we're trying to create Pickens as a crown jewel.
I think Pickens is an untapped gem that for the town itself, that the town of Pickens, there are no 200-acre parcels, just kind of right there on the edge of town. That's just very rare to find. So I like that. I like the fact that he already made a concession to the city to grant a force main sewer easement, and it's got capacity, and it could bring in revenue for the infrastructure through those new sewer meters, those new water meters and sewer customers to receive that kind of service.
How do you put a price on quality of life?
That's what my builders do. They build to a quality of life that they buy and build homes in certain communities that have got that quality of life quotient going up because people are moving there and they want to buy houses there.
Well, that's exactly what makes Pickens so special, because the quality of life that we have enjoyed for many, many years, in my case, half of my life. I'm not originally from Pickens, but I'm glad that I discovered the reasons why we came to Pickens was not any of the reasons why people are flocking their areas, because they're frustrated from the places they live. So they're looking for a nice place like Pickens, some good quality of life,
Sure.
to raise the kids.
No, I agree. And we see all those quality of life issues here for another 142 families. That I think it's definitely fantastic. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a letter of intent or a MOU with a national builder?
Not yet. No, I have to have a finished development agreement before I can even market that.
If not, and if the city doesn't vote to annex, would you still develop in the county?
I can't answer that. I haven't even looked at that plan. The UDO was changed. This is the Agricultural Heritage District, right? So yeah, 1 acre lots. I mean, possibly, but 1 acre lots with a high tension power line, force main below it, it's a different product, So it'd be a different deal. I'd have to sit down with Mr. Holder and say, here's Plan B. That's even smaller for us, and I do have buyers for that. Maybe, I'm not gonna say never, but I'm just saying here's where we are now, and I like this plan. Dean Holder likes this plan. Some members of the people in the city like this plan. They like the tax revenue. They like the benefits it could bring. They like the fact of all this open space, potentially having public access to water for recreation, for hiking. So we'd love to make this work. I think it could be truly a crown jewel and enhance the quality of life here. Yes, sir.
You got 142 plus or minus, half acre and 176 acres, something close to that. I know they wrote this stuff.
Half acre and what?
On that plus.
Oh, so they're 47 half acre lots.
What is the plus limit?
As you can see, I don't have room to get any more. I could put 2 more. I could get 144 by putting 2 at that exit. But I already have one that's kind of got a corner of its lot in the power line easement. That's kind of a no-no for builders. I'm sorry?
How many acres are you actually using for house?
Of the total acreage used in terms of the buildable area outside the floodplain, I don't know that number offhand. I can answer that.
It's about 80.
Maybe it might be. It's probably closer to 100. Correct. 47 half acre and 97 or 96 or 94, 95. If there's no, yes, ma'am.
You said you have one other rural town you're working with. How many have you actually developed other rural places?
In North Carolina, well, BRD has we have 75,000 lots under contract. That's either in development now, it's preparing to be developed, so it's 75,000. It's still a drop in the bucket for what the demand is, but we're one of the strongest players in the Southeast. We work in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and I think that's pretty much it right now. And then I'm trying to get us to come to Virginia as well. It's not as a large national home builder market. A lot of regionals, though, are saying we desperately need lots. Lots right now, the land market for raw land has flattened in the last 3 months. The market for finished lots, which is there's roads, there's curb and gutter, there's a driveway entrance, a finished lot ready to go, graded and stubbed out, you can build a house on. Demand is no different than it was 2 years ago. It's off the charts, hot, as the builders say. In the middle is us, which is the entitlement lots, fully entitled, ready to go, shovel-ready lots. Demand for that is strong, but not hot. It was hot, like just 3-4 months ago. And all southeastern housing markets that are growing. So the upstate of South Carolina, Charlotte, Research Triangle, or the Triangle area of North Carolina, and even in Greensboro, Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem area too. So.
A lot of people that don't live here, but if you know Pickens, you love our families, and what we want, if any housing, is the ones that our children could buy and not get in incredible debt, so they can stay around here. This is what we see everywhere else that's not the look.
So I would say these 142, there will be a mix of as I said, I don't see them being less than 380 just because of the kind of where the development agreement is at right now. But that's kind of the product. But I have no idea. And we're still so early in this. I get all that information from builders and from the market study. And I'm just taking swags at this. And this is all right now. We're talking about a neighborhood that won't even be delivering houses for another year or two. And it won't be built out for probably 2 or 5. So this is into the future. I don't know what those prices would be like then. What will not change during that whole period is the stipulations of the development agreement. And again, that's your city council saying it's got to stick because we don't have the UDO to cover this. And if we're going to approve this, it's got to look like this. It's got to adhere to these rules for now and until the neighborhood is complete and all the lots are handed over to homeowners. If there's no further questions, I know other people want to make their statements and give feedback to the council. So I will make my contact information available as we go forward. So I would welcome any continued feedback. I am, as you can see, we're not a kind of company where we try to get things done, as quietly as we can. We embrace the public feedback and the public interaction. It makes for better neighborhoods. It makes for a better product that I can sell to builders. They don't want to build in an area where nobody wants them. They will. Some will. Some won't. Some absolutely want to create 20, 30-year kind of increasingly growing value presences in those communities that they build in. So that's kind of in the category we're in now. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for the very good questions and wish you all well.
I think Dwight Holder would roll over in his grave if he knew this was going on.
I doubt it. Doesn't work. Okay. Now we're ready for comments from citizens and residents. It has here the comments from city residents than non-city residents. I'm gonna go back and forth so we can get through the line and not just go through all the residents at one time. I'm gonna go through all the residents and non-residents. I'm going back and forth with those two lists, so you won't have to wait and we can probably get through it a little bit faster. Remember, you got 3 minutes. We wanna hear what you have to say and we welcome all comments. Thank you all for being here. Now, Jeff Derrick?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can you ask that they announce then, if we're not doing it in order, whether they're a city resident or a county resident?
I'll let you know. It's right here. We have a resident here, Mr. Jeff Derrick.
Thank you. That was an impressive fund sale this to our community, okay? I've got a couple concerns. I'm not saying I oppose annexation. I'm not saying I agree with it. What I am saying is y'all can't afford it. You can't balance the budget. The last 2 years, we've had to borrow money to even fund the budget, okay? We've already got, we know from the last council meeting, we asked Beach, he's here, our apparently cop cars are in disarray, and we just spent 2 years ago $171,000 on 3 pickup trucks that I don't even see on the road. I don't even know where they at. What was you wanting, a kiss or what? I'm just asking. So my only comment is this. Y'all need to act as a council. He painted a pretty picture, didn't he? He really did. How many of y'all really want this? How many of y'all oppose this? Look, the whole crowd. We voted for y'all. Y'all need to do what the people want you to do. We elected y'all. And we can get you out of office. It ain't gonna be tomorrow, but we can.
That's no problem.
The whole crowd, I know it's no problem.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna be the first on the list, actually. But the point I'm making is this. We don't want it. You can't afford it. You just can't afford it. What you gonna do with garbage pickup and another garbage truck, and you gotta pick up the brush on the side of the road once or twice a week, and you're going into the subdivision with 140 homes. How much time I got left? Boy, I need to shut up, don't I? I'm down to 1 minute and 20 seconds. No, look, y'all not transparent. Y'all had this guy and the owner of the property in executive session, and I'm gonna tell you what, that's no reason to have executive session. When y'all discuss things that concerns me as a taxpayer and these citizens out here, y'all need to do it in an open council meeting. Don't hide behind closed doors, because when you do, what you think that makes me think? And I ain't got much sense, but you know what I think? You're trying to hide something. You're trying to promote this with this developer and apparently holder. Don't care about being holder, could care less. I care about me paying taxes, and will my taxes go up, And do you have to hire more people? And we gotta buy more police cars. And what we gotta do? I'll tell you what, I wanna put a swimming pool in my backyard, okay? An in-ground swimming pool in my backyard. And all of a sudden I discover I only got $10,000. But I discover 2 weeks before putting that in-ground pool in, that my roof leaks. Now, which one am I gonna do? The pool or fix my roof? I'm gonna fix my roof. Y'all worry about what's going on in the city right now, and don't worry about what you got to do to please a holder or a developer or anybody else. Listen to you, you look, every hand back there raised up, every one of them.
Okay.
Okay, every one of them. No, I got no money. Well, I don't have no money. I got no time, do I?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ben Mann. Mr. Ben Mann.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I appreciate your assembling this town hall so that we, the citizens who live here, can learn more about what's going on. What I've heard is it's pretty hard to develop property and make money. It's pretty hard to sell it and make money. But what I haven't heard is why are we doing it? I believe that the city council and mayor and the developer and the real estate man and the owner have been working for more than 2 years to solve the question of how can we make this work. I would suggest respectfully that you just quit working on that question and address first this question. Does this fit this community? Is this what the citizens of this community want? And then if we do want it, work on a way to make it happen. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of myself and also on behalf of several hundred people who live in this community. And by this community, I mean within the city limits and outside the city limits. We are 29671 Pickens. We're all Pickens people. We've been blessed to live in about the best place you could find to live. We do not want to degrade or destroy that blessing we have. So I would suggest that maybe the tip we could take from the 2-year negotiations be postponed until you can answer the question of, is this good for the community? I think you'll find overwhelmingly that it's not. In all your deliberations, have you asked the public, the citizens, whether or not they want this development? I don't believe you have, but we have. We being the opposition to the annexation and the high-density home development. We've asked. We have a petition, and we have collected more than 1,500 names who say we are against this project. We've collected 0 names that say, hey, we like this, it's real good, we want it, this is just what Pickens needs. Have you found something different? Have you found support in the community of the Pickens people that says, hey, find a way to make it work? Or have you heard those of us who are speaking and saying, we don't need this to work? We live in a very blessed area. We enjoy seeing the open spaces. We enjoy seeing the cattle and the horses and the goats and the sheep and birds of all sorts and the wild animals too, the deer and the squirrels and the rabbits and every now and then a skunk. So I'm speaking on behalf of a whole lot of people who are clearly telling you we don't think this fits. It just simply does not fit this area. If you go out to the proposed property and look at it, it's an open field and it's beautiful. And we appreciate that right now it's in the county and not in the city, and therefore any development would be controlled by the county regulations and not the city. I can see no reason other than promoting the housing development for you to annex this property into the city. If there's some reason you need to, other than the housing development, let us know what it is. When this project was tabled a few months ago, it was tabled so that you could understand and find out the answers to some of these questions about the traffic and the density and the water and the sewer and the trash and so forth. But there are two other things, and all of those can actually be studied and quantified and then evaluated as to pro and con, or burden versus benefit. I think you'll find overwhelmingly that the burden side is heavier than the benefit side. There are two things that weren't on that list of concerns, and one of them is congestion. The second is pollution. On congestion, most of us think, oh my goodness, they're talking about Atlanta or Charlotte or Myrtle Beach or Gatlinburg. But it can happen to a little city too. If you don't believe it, drive over to Easley and experience it for yourself. Easley made the mistake of approving one dense housing development, and then a second came, and a third, and a fourth. So all of those are approved, and if somebody's looking for that kind of housing, it's abundant just 8 miles down the road in Easley. Ask Easley, did this work out well for them or not? Think about it. God gave us common sense, but He did not require us to use it. I would ask you to think about what you're doing. And respectfully, if you have another town meeting, rather than giving several of us 3 minutes, put us on the agenda like you did the developer and the real estate agent.
Amen. Amen.
And let us make a presentation from our side.
I agree.
That would allow you to understand better both sides of this question before you answer. I appreciate your
Jessica Merrill. Miss Jessica Merrill. This city resident.
You go, girl.
She's a city resident.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing us to be here to talk. I could come up here and be real mad since Dan Bracken wanted to insult myself and Pam, even though you both, Mayor Scipio and Dan, were talking about being respectful. I don't feel like that was very respectful of him to do. I didn't plan anything to talk about tonight. Is this on? I didn't plan anything to say. I kept praying to God, what am I going to say? What can I say to convince my council members to vote no? Because I live here, I care about this community. I get out there in the streets, not because I ran for office, but because I care about myself, my family that lives here, the other people that live here. And I have emailed you all a question, which was about the water rights, because I wonder how can this benefit the city? If this man would like to build on his property, which is his right to build on his property, it's his right to sell, to make money, he owns it. We don't own it, he owns it. But why should we annex it into the city? He can build on it in the county. It's in the county. Why doesn't he build on it in the county? It's not profitable for him. So I'm asking you to vote no, because it's not profitable for the city to annex it into the city. I just asked that question about the water. You will not get the water rights. So why would it be profitable for the city? If you annex it in and you get, what, $4,000 per home? I think that's what's been going around. You'll have, what, $500,000? Where's the $500,000 gonna go? How fast are you gonna spend that? I feel like you guys are out here doing all kinds of things when one of you needs to start being a leader. Someone on council needs to start being a leader. Mayor Scipio does not need to be the leader. Tim does not need to be the leader. One of you on council that we elected needs to be the leader so that there can be a plan. Not his plan, but the plan of the people. And I've had enough of being insulted. I've had enough of every time you open a meeting, you insult me and other people that go out here to the community and inform them of things. I'm over it. And so I would just like for you guys to finally listen to us.
What did I do to insult
and vote in the way that we are asking you to vote, which is no. That is why everyone's here, to ask you to vote no. Because it's not profitable for the city. Thank you.
Mr. Larry Martin?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to make some comments to you. And I just want to go back just for a minute. We've been talking about this for 2 years. And, you know, we go back to that time. You can't hear? You want me to turn around?
There you go.
All right, well, I wanted to talk to them. But we've been talking about this for 2 years, and I was thinking about I didn't turn the light off. I was thinking about something that was said earlier about the Constitution. I think it was mentioned in passing. You know, Ben Franklin, in reply to something was asked about the Constitution, says, well, you know, the only thing, whether it be permanent or not, he said, you know, the only thing that's permanent is death and taxes. Well, guess what? The Constitution has been amended 27 times. There's going to be change. There's going to be change whether this is put in the city or whether it's put in the county. And when we first approached the city 2 years ago, and I'm one of the ones that lives within eyeshot of this property, we all went to the city and said, look, we're real concerned about this because we're concerned about it becoming another Easley. And will you listen to us? Because we were their guests. They didn't have to listen to us. But every time we've gone, they've listened. The mayor and members of the city council, I really appreciate it. Some of you weren't on when we first started discussing this, and now you are. And we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be heard, because you're going to make a very important decision. But getting back to this idea of change, you know, what is the change going to be? Is it going to be, as was proposed, you know, when we was first being talked about, it was talked about in the sense of being 200 lots, those flat slab houses that the developer mentioned earlier. And I just about had a panic attack because I have seen that go up and know how that looks. But as the city, which could have annexed this without the first meeting, because I know a little bit about the state law, they could have annexed it without the first meeting, heard the first word from me or any of my neighbors. They did allow us to be heard. And this is what this change that has taken place that you see tonight. Would I like for it to be less houses? Sure. But it's a whole lot less and a whole lot better in the sense that it's going to provide a tax base than we would have otherwise had. And I see my time's running out. I'm not asking them to annex this tonight, but I am asking that you use your good judgment. The development agreement that's been talked about is very important. Because a lot of these annexations, many of them have taken place around the county. And I wish the state law reflected, it's been an oversight on our part over the years, I wish it reflected this kind of due diligence to be had when these types of things occur. If it were done in the county, I wish it was that kind of approach. But it's not. They've got an acreage requirement, and that's it. And I know my time's out, Mr. Mayor, and I don't want to overstep my bounds.
I didn't say nothing to Mr. Mann, I won't say nothing to you.
I know. My wife is giving me the evil eye. But I did want to say this. This has come a long way, having heard us from the very beginning. And I got to commend the mayor who made the motion to table the original proposal. He was still on council. He made that after we made a plea, and I made that plea that night. These are the only meetings I've been to as a citizen after my tenure. But it's very important, and the mayor and then Councilman Scipio heard us. And that's very important. They didn't have to, but they did. They didn't even have to hold that meeting, but they did. And I commend them. I got to tell y'all that what has been done in other communities is not being proposed here. Because what's been done in other communities is really contributed to a lot of sprawl and a lot of traffic and a lot of unmitigated growth. It's hard to get a handle on. Would I like to see those cows remain across the road? Sure, but you know, it's just like Ben Franklin said, there's going to be change. What kind of change is it going to be? And in fairness to the council, I just had to say tonight that we really appreciate y'all letting us be heard and the thought that y'all have put into this. Because I can tell you, not every community has done this. And I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Miss Edwina Long. And she is a resident.
Slow, but I'm sure. Evening, everybody. I'm not going to be up here long. Ain't going to take me long to do what I got to do and get on through. And I'm going to cut through the chase. And the reason I'm reading half is because when I talk, I lose my breath so I can read better. I'm going to cut through the chase, and I'm standing 10 toes down. And I'm saying, no. What y'all want, building houses? No. And something tells me that you already pretty well done made up your mind and had your meetings and did what you want to do anyway. You know, so you know what? We just going to keep it. You playing in our faces. And I don't like to play in faces. I'm for real. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying, we elected you all, the citizens. We elected you all. We expect for you to support and go along with what we want, because it's not about you, it's about the citizens. And I'm just going to ask 3 questions and I'm going to sit down. When are you going to work for the people that really put you in office? I'm going to be waiting. When are you going to support the people that really put you in office? The 3rd question is, when are you going to really sit down at the table and ask, what do the people really want? Don't forget you work for us. We don't work for you. And with what's been going on, I'm gonna tell you, I really don't even trust you. Because you play in our face. You play in our face. And at the end of this session, you remember, when your time is over, y'all gonna F-A-F-O.
Okay, Ms. Pam Winters, non-resident.
Mayor Scipio and councilors, thank you for having this meeting. I'm Pam Winters and I'm a county resident. First, I would like to state this annexation is not about property rights. The landowner and the developer can sell and develop the property to county standards should they so choose. The city is under no legal obligation to annex this or any other property. I have a few questions for you tonight. Do you think you should listen to the majority of your constituents over a select minority? Do you believe it's right to use intimidation tactics to silence opposition? Do you believe it's right to use intimidation tactics to influence a decision? Several weeks ago, I learned that I was being threatened with potential legal action if I did not stop talking about this annexation and development. This was an attempt to silence my voice. In more recent days, I have learned that the other individuals' rights to free speech were under attack through the use of threatening tactics to try and silence their voices. I've also learned that people who are perceived as influential in this community have been contacted and have actually met with the developer, with a select few individuals that they could believe to influence others. That sounds like intimidation to me. Many of us have also heard, if the property's not developed in the city, it'll be far worse. You will be sorry. More intimidation. That makes me wonder, have any of you been intimidated or threatened? You should really think about that, because what may seem like benign at the time, in actuality, it was more likely intimidation to influence your decision. As elected officials, you have the right and power to say, it's time to stop the manipulation and intimidation and listen to the voices of all your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Regina Harnett. Yes, she's a citizen.
I am a citizen of the city and a lifelong member of the county, but tonight, council, I'm representing the Greater Pickens Chamber of Commerce. As the voice of local business community, the Greater Pickens Chamber of Commerce recognizes that our city stands on a pivotal point in its development with growth on the horizon. It is more important than ever that we come together for a shared vision, one that ensures the long-term prosperity of Pickens while preserving our unique character and quality of life that has defined our community for years. We believe that managed strategic growth is essential to the success of our citizens, our entrepreneurs, and our business owners alike. Growth for its own sake is not enough. It must be guided by thoughtful planning, responsible stewardship, and a deep respect for the people of Pickens and places that make Pickens the gem. Our goal is not to change who we are, but to build on our strengths, encouraging investments that reflect our values, creating jobs that support our families, and supporting infrastructure that meets the needs of a growing population without compromising the natural beauty and charm of our area. To that end, the Chamber remains committed to advocating for smart policies, collaborative partnerships, and inclusive development efforts that benefit all members of our community. We invite you, residents, business owners, and our community leaders who we voted for to join us in shaping a future that is not only prosperous, but also intentional, sustainable, and the true spirit of what Pickens really is. So thank you, Council, for your time and your service to our community.
Thank you.
Okay. Kelsey Crooks, non-resident.
Good evening. My name is Kelsey Crooks, Pickens County Planning Commissioner, District 5, Easley, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. My original plan was to stay silent on this annexation, but I was asked by several to speak due to my direct knowledge and experience in annexation. I stand before you to express my strong opposition to the proposed annexation. While I understand the intent may to be promote growth or expand tax revenue, the reality for many of us is far more complex and far more concerning. I can say that because I'm from the town that is the poster child for annexation. I know what annexation creates, and no amount of hardy plank is going to change the challenges it creates. Annexation, when initiated without unity of the affected property owners and the agreement of city constituents, presents a disruption to our lives and community identity. Many residents move to Pickens and still reside in Pickens because of what it is. They do not want to be absorbed by a larger city structure that does not reflect our values, priorities, or way of life. We are being asked to shoulder the want for generating more tax revenue without guaranteed improvements in infrastructure or services. Trash pickup, road maintenance, public safety, these are all real issues. And yet, in many cases, annexation stretches existing municipal services thinner, benefiting the city's bottom line more than it benefits the newly annexed. We are also concerned about zoning changes and land use decisions. These decisions impact everything from housing density to traffic flow to school crowding. Once we're annexed, our county voices diminish in the larger city bureaucracy. If this property is all that needs to be annexed to help Pickens thrive, then where is the consideration for immediately putting a moratorium on any further annexations past this one should it be approved? Your chamber is already calling for more annexation, and that is a problem. Annexation is not a line on a map. It's a shift in governance, in representation, and in the future of our neighborhoods. If growth is the goal, let's find a path that respects the people who already live here. Let's invest in meaningful collaboration, not forced expansion that you're being told by your constituents they do not want. I urge the body to reject the annexation proposal and instead listen to the people who will be most directly affected by it. If this is such a burden already, imagine the irreversible implications if this were approved. Thank you.
Bradley. Julie Bradley. Okay, Perry Junior Green, Jeans. Help me with that.
Mayor Scipio is Jurgens.
Jurgens, okay.
Like the hand lotion.
Okay. I had a J.
Slippery devil. So anyway, my name is Perry, and I'm here to speak to you about
Jurgens.
Being a common man. If you haven't seen me on the hiking trail or in the school systems, then you've probably never seen me. But I do have a case that I'd like to discuss with you, or several, and that is, I had the opportunity to travel the United States for jobs. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs, good, bad. I'd like to discuss with you some of the goods and the bad, the facts, for you, Mr. Developer, because that's what you want. But what I do hear is non-confidence. I don't hear a good development plan solid yet. And that's okay. That's what we're here for. So in my case for annexation, there are a few scenarios which expanding municipalities' boundaries may make sense. If two adjacent adjoining places are economically productive in their own right, and one is unincorporated and you incorporate one, that may be a good outcome. However, when both parties are starting from strong position with existing infrastructure, neither inherits disappropriate burdens, like they plan for the future liabilities and existing record of accounting and managing projects. They may also find efficiency in services that bring cost benefits. Some counties or cities designate an urban growth boundary to guide that future use, which I believe I heard a little earlier. Number one on the list of things that we were going to look at was the city of Clemson, town of Central, town of Norris, city of Liberty, town of 6 Miles, city of Pickens, city of Easley. All these municipalities, can they withhold the expansion that we're expecting here? Can they also benefit from this? Are they able to hold up to the police need, the sewage, the water? These expansions often come with promised benefits. Impact fees and new real estate tax revenue are the usual suspects. And sales pitch for why your town or city should annex that land. Part of that pitch is the mistaken assumption that infrastructure is an asset and not a liability. If you believe the former, even far-flung disjointed expansion must be good. But the reality is that each annexation decision is its own case. This happens to be a very unique case. Some of the examples, good and bad, that I've seen is a gate station in Atlantic Beach, Florida, where they wanted to put in about 65 pumps. To give you a 30,000-foot view of what this is, that's Highway 10 coming from California all the way across the United States and dipping into A1A. And that gate station is right at the corner. 65 pumps? We're talking a beach town. It wouldn't work. So they reduced it to 12, which does work. Gate station made some really nice improvements to that merger and also some safety crosswalks. Wonderful idea. Kmart, Atlantic Beach also, that was abandoned, so that bottom floor was going to be shops and build high-rise apartments above it. That was not a goner, because that would destroy our family-owned small businesses, bringing in too much traffic to that already congested corner that Hess just fixed. Bacardi Rum and Anheuser-Busch, we all love them, but they took a lot of our surface and groundwater. Unfortunately, Florida is a floating peninsula. That was a no-go. So wonderful engineers decided to do desalination. That is great. Use our ocean water to use for Bacardi. Taste a little salt, add a little lemon. Anyway, bodies of water on Wolf Creek. I believe you have about 2 or 3. You also have Wolf Creek that passes through 3 times. And I heard the concern about water rights, riparian is what we legally call it. Rights. Who gets to use that water is part of this discussion as well. Does anybody get to put their fishing boat in there and float around? What's the water going to be used for? Watering lawns? We need to make a real deep look at that. The case against annexation, one of the most serious flaws in pro-annexation rhetoric is chiefly that it ignores the long-term consequences that are always negative. The most glaring flaw is the way that which annexation contributes to the growth Ponzi scheme. Sorry to use that, but it starts the short-term sugar high, where all this money is coming in to residents and businesses, and then that sugar high is sweetened by developers who promise to create all roads, pipes, streetlights before handing it off to the municipality. But years down the road, the gift becomes a liability. As the type of development enabled the annexation can't possibly cover the maintenance. This problem is exacerbated by the fact that so many annexations include large greenfield developments and detached single-family homes, a notoriously low productivity pattern. And that brings me to the, I have to go off topic here, the $300,000 to $600,000 homes. Is our workable workforce able to support that? Where are those people going to come from? And why don't we use the resources that we currently have? Some of the blighted areas or places downtown that could really use some development, use those for affordable housing. I've seen places in Detroit, Michigan that take blighted areas and completely bulldoze them down, put new buildings in there, and bring in affordable housing. And what they also do is solar panels. These communities are totally self-sufficient. They even sell some power back to the city. And that's kind of what we should take a deeper look at if we're looking at housing. Beautiful housing out there on the mountains, man, I love it. And I think all of us do. We just need to scale it back a bit. I don't know that 442, that's a lot of profit. 70, if we have to go this route, 70 might look very pretty. So, are we doing a good job with the resources and infrastructure that we already maintain? If Pickens County is like most North America, it has a staggering maintenance backlog and faces tough accounting decisions to address it. If we're honest about entering the per mile cost of all our roads, sewers, electrical lines into the equation, there's almost no line of reasoning that makes it adding more land to infrastructure a reasonable response. I think we just went through that with the recent hurricane. I could read section number 2 or the last 3 paragraphs. That's fine, you got this too. My verdict, going along with the theme of Perry Mason, is because of long-lasting future concerns, the parcel number 4180-00-46-1106, Malden Lake and Wolf Creek Road should not be annexed. If we can manage everything we have in our area and we're net positives, and we're maturing gradually over time, maybe at that point we can take a good management to the edge of town and get some more land development intentionally over time. As a close, all of us here have a great responsibility. Mr. Mayor, thank you for inviting us, and inviting me. And all you councilmen and women, thank you for your time, for allowing me to speak. I will always remember our mayor back in Atlantic Beach because he did great things for our city. I don't remember the mayor before him. She didn't make much of an impact. But because this Pickens County has so much responsibility in this action, what do y'all want to be remembered for? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Jonathan Baker.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Right.
Come on up.
Money, money, money. All right, so first off, I do know a lot of people have sort of directed a lot of negative attention at the council. Clearly, I've done it myself, getting a little bit excited. They have not voted yet, and I really hope y'all are taking true consideration on all of the facts and the concerns, you know, with the people here. Something I do want to ask is, who plans to do what's right and represent the people? Anybody able to show of hands for that? Plans to do what's right and represent the people? Appreciate you. Appreciate you. All right. Oh, no, okay, well, that's what I was asking. Show of hands, go ahead. Everybody wants to say they're here to represent the people. Do what's right by representing the people.
All right, and if there is something wrong with what the people want, you're going to take your time to educate them on why it's wrong, and hopefully we can sway their views, correct? So, all right, factual information. I appreciate you. Right when I did first get here, I could view in this little corner here because, you know, we were all stuck in the hallway. You know, we weren't part of everything. We didn't get to see the presentation. We've seen a nice little picture of some neighborhoods of what they were saying, hey, this might be what it's looked like. Well, I guarantee you that was the best possible situation ever. If that was the ugliest picture they had, they wouldn't have used it. That was the very best picture. So it is not going to be what you've seen. Doubt it. All right. So a lot of people have stated about school standards and traffic standards, and you're right. We could probably handle a little bit more traffic on these roads, and we could be just like Easley in Greenville. Every time you go to Woodruff, yay, it's exciting. Don't we love it? So that's why we all live in Pickens, ain't it? Because we love driving to Greenville. It's our favorite. So no offense to you. I know it's a business opportunity for y'all, but I speak for a large majority of Pickens, and we don't want you. We don't want your development. And to the Holder family, I understand your personal rights, and I hope you do not think that anybody is viewing you negatively or your family. I respect your rights, but we do want to make sure that we are not abusing annexation by allowing special uses with this property. We're not trying to limit your rights, but we're not trying to give you any more. Everybody understand that? We do not want to abuse the rights for it. And you did say something about public access to the water, to a swamp. Nobody cares. We don't want that. Just keep it. You know, he said something also about going somewhere else, and there was a do that comment. I'd like to know who that was. Appreciate you. Let's see. Oh, so yeah, so we can't handle everybody in this room already, and they want to bring more people here. We had to come to a different building because it isn't big enough. We come to this building, still ain't big enough. How about it? Let's bring some more people. Yeah, maybe we'll go meet in Greenville. I heard they got a big enough building over there. Maybe with all the money that we make, we can afford to make that big old building, right? But we ain't making no money off of this. We know it's a lie. Like I said, it's a gift that's going to cost us money. And this is not for our people. Our people here don't make enough money to buy a $400,000 home. That's not us. That's not Pickens, you know. There might be a few people in here that can afford a $400,000 home, you know. Maybe an empty nester, go buy a 2,800 square foot little house, tiny little house, big old lot. Those things are giant. They're about a half an acre. It's amazing. So, yeah, let's do it. So either which, like I said, I do appreciate everybody taking the time, hearing the people. Power to Pickens.
Yeah. All right, Miss Deborah Hudson. There she is.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Hudson, and my family has lived in Pickens for the past 27 years. Any annexation that leads to development that drastically increases the population will affect all of us. In September of 2023, the idea of annexing this same property was tabled by the Pickens City Council for many of the same objections as you've heard tonight. An overwhelming amount of people were against it in 2023 and still are against it. So the real question is, are you going to listen to the people you represent or follow the money path that may destroy the natural beauty and a way of life that can't be bought back? Consider our infrastructure. Control of our water was just given to Greenville, and it's my understanding that Pickens has no seat at the table for representation, so who knows what the future holds regarding cost and quality. Now let's think about electricity.
Blue Ridge Electric recently disclosed the peak usage hours so customers can choose to limit their electricity use during high demand times, which happens to be when families need power the most. So why would we want to invite a dense subdivision to put more strain on this essential utility? Roads. Everyone knows our roads haven't been maintained as promised with our tax money. The public has little faith that collecting more tax money would improve this situation. Dense development would just increase congestion as people have to commute to school and to jobs out of the area due to our limited job market in Pickens. Finally, annexing this property could set an unwanted precedent. Our area is in the crosshairs to develop economically. Look up the Appalachian Regional Commission Development Plan at arc.gov, and you'll see that what appears to be local planning is not really originating from local ideas. If you want to dig deeper, go online to the American Policy Center. The developer even said himself, they're doing 75 developments all over. Don't let this just be a token town hall that fulfills a requirement for public input. Please take our concerns seriously and vote no to annexation. Splitting the speakers into city versus non-city just highlighted the fact that we are probably more like two Pickens with one love. There is a minority who can tolerate density and more government control, while the majority here value the smaller, quaint town where we purposely chose to live before the new high school, before the Doodle Trail, before all the fast foods and Walmart came to town. Now, finally, I have to say, it's hard to trust when you can't even provide a microphone and a room large enough on a hot topic like this for us on a Wednesday night when a lot of people go to church. So y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Thank you.
Okay, Pat Mulkey, non-resident.
First of all, I have to look around the room and I see so many people that I absolutely have looked up to and respected all my life. Mr. Woody over there, who knows a little bit about working with my dad, infrastructure. I think we've helped put a lot of water lines and things in this county and city. Mr. Mann, you and my mother were good friends, and I've always respected you out there. Coach, you taught me how not to use a tape measure. It was a lesson I've never forgotten. But the thing is, Larry said it, we're going to have change. And I wanted to hear the developer that's working on this. This is not set in stone. It may not happen. They may not. You don't know how they're going to vote. You just assume. And I'd like to remind everybody, the cheering party out there that did not like the last council, how things were going, they voted them out, and this is the people they put in there. So now they're attacking the people they put in there. They can't make up their minds. My neighbor is sitting right over there, Miss Carla over there, and I think we get along pretty good, or have. You know, how's your cow? Just a couple weeks. The thing is, we're a small community, but yes, we have had growth spells, and then we've went the other way. Look around. I mean, in my lifetime, I've seen every big plant close, every textile mill close, Singer close. All these jobs have left us. We've never gotten anything back to even come close to replacing these jobs. And some folks have said, well, we need more infrastructure. Guess what? This council started working on the infrastructure. May not agree with which water group they went with, but the pipes have been going in the ground. The work's got done. It didn't get kicked down the road again like it's been done through many, many administrations. They're taking the heat, but they're getting the job done. Yes. The other thing people have always said all my life, I wish we had a Capri's in Pickens. I wish we had this in Pickens. Guess what? If we don't have the population base to support it, they're never going to come. The jobs aren't going to come. I took a ride today around the country club and the new little developments over there that everybody's, oh, I don't want. It looks beautiful. And folks, if this These folks are willing to listen. Don't shoot them down. They're willing to talk. Am I correct on that? This is just a beginning process. So let's don't stab ourselves in the foot because a few people, let's listen to them before we all. I think we do need more housing, and we've noticed new houses are coming in our neighborhood. Nothing we can do about it unless we buy the land. And that is an option, folks. Y'all can go in together and buy Mr. Holder's land and do whatever you want with it. But he's got a plan. I mean, literally, I kid you not, you could do that. We could put Clydesdales over there, but all of us ride by and look at them. But I respect the people in this room, and I respect all these people and their decision. I'm going to respect either way. But I just would like to see us continue to grow together. And we can't do that if we don't take a step.
Okay, Miss Liz Rampy. Hello.
Hello. I am a lifelong resident who has chosen to stay in Pickens County. Upon high school graduation, I attended the College of Charleston. It was my goal to have a different experience from the life I had always known. However, I began transferring to Clemson before my freshman year in Charleston was complete. Even with the ocean a few miles away, I longed for the country setting, natural beauty, safety, and small town feel of Pickens County that I admittedly had taken for granted. Pickens has always been special to me. When I was a child, my family would enter the town by traveling Malden Lake Road. I knew we were close to our destination when I saw the golden arches, the church on the hill, and the beautiful mountains in the background. I have now worked and worshiped in the city of Pickens for most of my adult life. I still enjoy driving through the Malden Lake area on my way to downtown Pickens. I rarely have to apply my brakes due to the limited traffic. Malden Lake is an easy passway to the home of the Azalea Festival, the historic Pickens County Museum, and the Haygood Mill. Malden Lake Road is the symbolic sign which says, "Welcome to Pickens." We have been given a treasure. I am grieved to think we would accept overdevelopment. Once the land is gone, there is no going back. We must all collaborate to protect it. High-density housing is not in alignment with the image of serenity, which is portrayed in Pickens marketing materials. When you Google what Pickens is known for, words such as heritage, scenic, and tranquil are among the top of the list. It also states the town is a popular destination for visitors seeking a small town feel with easy access to the natural beauty of the upcountry. It does not say Pickens is known for a landscape littered with overcrowded neighborhoods. It does not say you have to weave through the traffic to get to the mountains. For anyone who wants to say we cannot live in the past, you are correct. This means we cannot borrow a good name from previous generations. Each one of us must work today to keep Pickens a town to be proud of. Pickens has historically been a place of hospitality. What will we offer our visitors, guests, and future residents? Why would someone visit a place that looks like any other town? Why call a place home when it has no charm and no character? Please use your vote to protect our gift. Vote no to the annexation of the Malden Lake property. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peter Greenberg. Not ready.
Good evening, Mayor Scipio and Pickens City Council members. First, I just want to say how grateful we are for your commitment to serve and also to make difficult decisions that have to be made. And clearly, this is a difficult decision. We also appreciate the fact that you've been committed to a complete and full community engagement process. Transparency is a really important component of our democratic government that we enjoy. Last century, 2 centuries ago, my great-great-grandfather used to ride a wagon up from Anderson to sell parts and equipment to farmers in Pickens County. As a young boy, I played in the fields and the hills, went up to Table Rock, had fun in the Chattooga River, and went to Long Creek for apples in the fall. The pasture land, the open space, the quality of life, the character of life in Pickens is unmatched in many areas around this country. 2012 city plan, I've spoken about it before, it has a lot of language. Following in good faith. As we look at this, we cannot build our way out of economic difficulties. Revitalization of Pickens, I think, should be focused on downtown areas. The density, the existing density of Pickens is less than the density that the developer is talking about in the subdivision. We're talking about 10-foot setbacks, 7-foot setbacks. Drive around the city of Pickens. Here's 20, 30. Nobody has talked about it, but it has to be addressed and it has to be dealt with. Less than 100 yards from the edge of this property is a federal Superfund site. We recently learned that the site was discovered in the late 80s, is still active, an active contamination site. Trichloroethylene, polychlorinated biphenyls, polychloroethylene, tetrachloroethylene. This is not stuff that they warn you about on the back of a paint can. It's the worst of the worst. After over 30 years and numerous attempts at remediation, some are still listed in the 2020 report at unacceptably high levels in the groundwater. Surrounding property owners have been notified by DHEC and the EPA that they cannot have wells for drinking water, and there's an advisory against eating fish as far away as Hartwell Lake. So the assumption here is that a developer could build a lot of houses on top of land with likely contaminated groundwater, and providing city drinking water solves the problem, right? Not exactly. The unfortunate reality is that personal injury lawyers find toxic waste particularly compelling. If 2 people in that development get cancer, does anyone think that the lawyers won't come running? Class action means tens of millions of dollars. I ask, please do your diligence. There are thousands of toxic waste lawsuit damage awards which do not directly establish a specific connection between a person's cancer and a chemical present. If it is merely possible that this connection exists, lawyers have succeeded in huge damage awards. They name everybody and go after the deep pockets first. Is it wise to put the city's finances and economic health at risk? If the city approves that the city is responsible, a builder's LLC or holding company can be dissolved through bankruptcy for a few $1,000s and they walk away. The city cannot do that. Please provide wisdom and the highest standard of good judgment in the best interest of our city and county in this decision. Many years down the road, this probably will fade into the background. It will diminish in the severity of this issue. But right now, I see it as an impossible risk. It's really something that should be one of the most important components of this decision, considering the amount of potential money that's involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the last one from our list. Does council have any comments you'd like to say? I just want you to know this council does hear and listen to all, even complaints, especially complaints, because I always want to be better than I was even yesterday. I thank Mr. Larry Martin, Senator Larry Martin, who I looked up to when I was young because he was one of the youngest senators ever elected, and he did a great job. Mr. Holder, I've been knowing him all of my life. He taught me how to cut wood without cutting my fingers off. He was my shop teacher and coach. So those relationships, I could go on, are steadfast, unmovable, and nothing's going to harm that. Now, some people don't like me, and I can take that. And I won't be bullied to make a decision by that. We listen to our constituents. It's a lot of them. It's over 3,000 people in the city of Pickens. And we want to hear from all of them. That's why we had this a moment. Now, Monday coming, we're having a work session. We're going to be talking about this development at the work session as council. And we welcome you to be there. It's not going to be an executive session. But sometimes executive session is necessary to protect council members to be able to speak freely. Because you know everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people will take your words and use them against you, especially when you're in public office. So it gives them opportunity to speak freely. We spoke about a contractual matter, which was what we're supposed to do in executive session. But I promise you we're being as transparent as we can. We're going to move forward. We're not going to make any rash decisions. I was the one that made the motion to table it 2 years ago because I was not happy with the way it was going. But it's sort of hard when people act so ugly about a situation such as this. These people give their life for Pickens. They give their hours and time. And I know that may not mean much to people, but a lot of families go through a lot of heartache when your name is dragged through the mud because you don't agree with how some of your constituents want you to vote. But I want you to know how serious I've been about this. I do not care what anybody has said about me tonight, but I know that I have done my due diligence, and I will continue to do that, and this council will too. We don't see eye to eye, but we struggle through it and get through it the best way that we can. There's a big decision that needs to be made. And I promise you, these people are here and they're able to do that. I trust them. People have been talking about whether they trust us or not. What have we done? I'm a hush. Because we hadn't done anything. We've been accused of not having common sense. Now, I don't have a lot of book sense, but thank God I got a lot of common sense. And I just thank you all for coming here. And we're going to go through this process. I want the developers to know. We're going to continue to work with you. Mr. Holder, we're going to work. If we can't reach it, we can't reach it. If we can, we can. But I'm not going to do anything to harm the city of Pickens. I didn't migrate here. 4 generations. I believe in this place, just like Mr. Mann does. And we really love Pickens. My father was a minister, went through all of the United States pastoring at different parishes. But when it was time to come home, I wish y'all could have been in the car with me and him, because we left my mom in Memphis and we would coming home to get the house ready. When we got right at I-25, 26 going to 25, going down Greenville County, and we went down through 25, and it said Pickens County after a while. My dad said, Ike, let the windows down. The air is different here. I love this place. I'm not going to let anybody take that away from me, or the ones that are part of this. Let's work together and make this as good as possible, because I made a commitment that I wanted growth, But I did not want to lose our identity. You can look at the minutes. That's exactly what I said. And I'm going to stand by that totally with everything I have. Again, thank you. I want to thank the council for all that you've done. I want to thank our attorney for being here with us, our clerk, Chief Beach. If we had something like that, I don't think you could handle it, could you? But I thank you all. So can I have a motion that we adjourn? Can I? We moved in second. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. It is done. Thank you again. And come Monday, please.